Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. As far as news reports are concerned, there seems to be attempts, as far as India is concerned, to move against Pakistan. As far as IMF is concerned, as far as FATF is concerned, we're going to be talking about our strategy, our counter-offensive at this time when we saw the press conference yesterday. As far as DJ ISPR is concerned, there were, clear evidences of Indian perpetrated terrorism within Pakistan. We're going to be talking about the relevancy of this in the current scenario, and of course our diplomatic attempts at this time with our delegations, our representatives going to various parts of the world to tell Pakistan's story. Of course also Fitnatul Hindustan, which we've seen the kind of attacks that have consistently happened. If we look at the recent past, if we look at the most recent one with the school bus and children being targeted, and the pretext and the story, the way that it is manipulated, the way that the facade that is painted, we'll be talking about that as far as India is concerned, and Pakistan's resolve as it remains steady and firm against such a fitna tul Hindustan that we see at this time. I have with me Brigadier Retired Nadir Mir, who is a analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Dr. Salma Malik, who's a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for joining us. Daniyal Sheikh, who's a also a political analyst, and thank you for being with us today. We also have Ali Rashid, spokesperson, Sindh government. Let me start from the studio. Daniyal, we know now that the most recent reports of India going against us against us as far as IMF is concerned, as far as FATF is concerned. It's kind of the pot calling the kettle black, and the way that the way that we are looking at things at this time, because there are clear evidences of Indian perpetrated terrorism within Pakistan. We've seen it again and again, as we saw I'm sure that we all saw the DGISPR press conference yesterday, and the way that they've consistently done this. We have Kulbhushan Yadav, we have the dossiers that were sent out to the world. How do you think we are going to plead our cause? How do you think we are going to tell our story to the world?
Not just our dossier. In 2015, the United Nations also sent a dossier to India on Pakistani evidence. So it's internationally proven. Our case is very strong. The world believes, and if you look at the case of Hardeep Singh in Canada, the way the Indian state is involved in his assassination. So it's not difficult for us to prove to the world that India has been, especially under the reign of Narendra Modi, it's been involved in state terrorism. See, if you look at things in a larger perspective, it's basically an attack on our economy. Like recently, the government of Pakistan, in collaboration with the Chinese government, we sent 1,000 agri engineers who are getting trained there. We're heading towards an agricultural revolution. So using water as deterrence to pressurize us, and then destabilizing Balochistan, because Balochistan is the gateway to CPAC. So it all adds up. It's basically the fear that India has is from our economic growth and economic stability, and it's basically an attack on that, because the whole Palgam operation, and even in the past what they've done, there have always been false flag operations. If you look at the Sanjota Express, after 2 years, a court in New Delhi, they ruled that it was carried out by local Hindu band outfits. So Indian state, they're very strong transcripts. Basically now the ball is in our court, because our evidence is very strong. Now it's our diplomats and our government officials, and even our responsible citizens, it's their job. Our citizens residing in America and England and other first world countries, it's also for them to take the stand, because see, we have been in the front line of terrorism since the start of the war against terror. We have lost more than 90,000, we have had more than 90,000 casualties. So it's not difficult for us. Our evidence is very strong. It's just for us to get it across to the world, and India is blatantly lying.
Especially get it across to the world, like you're saying. Let me go with that to Dr. Salma Malik, and I'll come back to you. Salma, can you hear me?
I can, of course. Hello, can you hear me?
Gee, Dr. Salma, there's also, like Daniel said here, there is clear evidence. It is now for us to tell it to the world. But, I keep going back to 2015 when we did have dossiers that were presented. And do you think the world today is going to listen more? Do you think that they're, of course, starting from the US, starting from the climate of the world generally, they're more amenable now that India has exposed itself in the way that it has without evidences, if we look at the most recent Pahalgam and numerous other instances, and that perhaps they are now willing to acknowledge and listen to the reality that they weren't 10 years ago or so?
Great. Thank you so much for having me in your program. There are a few things I absolutely agree with what Daniel Sahab has just mentioned here. And there are different dimensions or ways that we can look at this factor. By no way of criticizing, but as a very concerned citizen and a keen observer of the developments, I would say a few things. India's disinfo campaign has always been a very, very strong campaign. It's part of its strength. That's a non kinetic third, sixth, seventh generation warfare action that India has mastered and mastered very well. And that is something in which we are deficient. What this May war has brought about is kind of that restoration of confidence in Pakistan, uh, of the Pakistanis, that whatever has happened, we have done it with our limited means, with so many things against us. And yet we have proven ourselves. And now, if we talk to the international community, they are going to take us seriously. And that is exactly how they're taking us
When you
seriously.
say, I'm going to interject, when you say that, there's, that we've proven ourselves, of course, and, in terms of absolving us, of course, of these allegations that are really frivolous, is something, the way that this Pahalgam operation was cooked up. First of all, the way that, we said, the Prime Minister said, give us the evidence. We kept on saying it. We're still saying it today. It hasn't come. It's not going to come because there doesn't seem to be any. So the question is that, in that kind of a background, when they have, right, they have, if they have diplomacy, if they have people, in the world at this time at various positions, the question is the world willing to listen to the truth? How do you see it as a diplomat?
Yes. Amaru, you see, the thing is that the kinetic part of the war was just one segment of this continuous ongoing war that has always been there. And now we are going to see this war becoming more ferocious because India has been dealt a bloody nose. And they're really smarting under that effect. Now, what we really need to do is that take this evidence, take this truth, as we have done before, to the international community time and again, and employ very aggressive diplomatic overtures, citizen diplomacy through media. The media blitz has been very, very vocal in bringing forth Pakistan's position, yet we have not been sensational. We have not really indulged in the type of noise and the violent aggression that Indian media portrayed. We have been very constrained, we have been very restrained, responsible, very careful with the words, not saying anything that is going to take the war to a different dimension. And that is something the entire world is giving us a lot of credit for. I think now we really need to go several steps further, and that is that we need to absolutely go to all the possible world capitals and put our position across. Pakistan is now chairing the UN Security Council. We need to use that position to as effectively as possible for ourselves. And there is no looking back. As you absolutely said, that when it comes to sharing the information, having a joint investigation team, as we have always insisted in previous cases as well, the false flag operations that they have indulged, even this one, nothing is going to come out of it. They're going to end up killing few more poor Kashmiri citizens and framing them next to some guns that they have discovered, make fake Pakistani IDs as they've always done, and then they'll say, see, we told you these were the Pakistanis. So is it very difficult to make a Pakistani ID? Not at all. Is it very difficult to make a dead body look like a Pakistani citizen? Not at all. Kashmiris are our blood and soul. So they are no different than us, but they're using the Kashmiris, abusing actually the Kashmiri movement and using them whenever it suits them to portray different stories to the world. This is the high time that we need to call their bluff, and we really, really need to do it with a lot of strength, with a lot of confidence and conviction. The same confidence, conviction, responsibility, and restraint that we showed during the kinetic phase of this conference, and now this war, and now this war is now moving into a non-kinetic phase, which is going to be far more lethal. They are going to keep attacking us from our economic front. They have already dealt us one unfortunate situation where our young girls were killed in the Khuzdar APS school bus incident. So we have to be wary of what they're going to do to us, and they'll keep doing that. They'll keep attacking us from wherever possible that they feel, and that's not going to be only the Pakistani home front that they're going to do in the US, in various legislations, wherever they find any opening possible. They have a very strong diaspora. They have very strong lobbies. They have the Israelis teaching them all type of strange lessons, and they also have uh, killing squads, as Daniyal Sheikh mentioned, when it comes to Canada and the US and various other things. So we really, and the disinformation campaign that is very old and very well established. So we have to counter all of these things, and all of these actually are our war front now.
Right, fair enough. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that you have limited time, Dr. Salma. Thank you for being with us. I'm going to go to Brigadier retired Nadir Mir. Brigadier Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Brigadier Saab, there is, we've just heard from Turkey that they've banned a terrorist organization. In terms of learning from these practices, what our neighbor is doing, what India is doing is essentially, terrorism. There's no doubt about that. It is being perpetrated, it is being done through invisible means, it is being done now through visible evidences that we have. We saw images yesterday, we saw, those terrorists being treated in Indian hospitals. In this kind of a climate, what do we learn from countries like Turkey?
Before I answer your question regarding Turkey and the rest of the world, I think there's some need to clarify. India is following a clear policy, and the policy is called Policy of Confrontation with Pakistan. You saw the chapter, that is the military chapter, which happened for a 4-day intense war, which India lost. So they have resorted to the water terrorism and the terrorism in Baluchistan, including children being massacred and all the other things, and what all they're doing at the global level and international and diplomatic level. But the main thing that we have to understand as Pakistanis is that they are very clear, the Indian establishment or the Indian state, that they are following a policy of confrontation with Pakistan, and even after this war, which they lost, the 4-day war, they have not relented or they haven't changed the policy. Pakistan's last national security policy talked of 100 years of peace with India. So there's a clear mismatch. Now, policies are with time and with events supposed to be modified and, altered. So the first thing Pakistan has to do is to recheck and rekindle its India policy. And I said that earlier, and also the Kashmir policy, which is obviously linked to it. Because it is only after that you would be able to deal with whether Indian terrorism, whether Indian military aggression, water and this. So we have to be clear. Even though Pakistan wants peace, that's understood because Pakistan is a peaceful state. It has been talking of peace, and rightly so. And I've been saying that myself also. But the other side is not.
Brigadier Saab, we were saying we want peace from the point get-go. We were also saying that, restrain yourself. If we look at those 4 days even. And, like you said also, it's just that, we escalated to de-escalate essentially. But of course, there came a time where we had to show India that what Pakistan is capable of. enough, and there was no alternative. In that sense, diplomatically also, like you said, that if they want confrontation, then of course Pakistan is going to defend itself. It's going to give them a taste of their own medicine. There seems to be little doubt about that, right? Or there seems to be little else that a country like Pakistan can do. Like you've heard recently, we are not unfortunately what's happening in Palestine. Pakistan is not Palestine. Pakistan is a nuclear nation standing shoulder to shoulder with India, and they have to either acknowledge that or bear the consequences, right?
The point is that, like you said very correctly, you gave them a blunt, bloody nose in a military conflict. We have to do something against their terrorism. They're carrying out terrorism against you, and as the DG ISPR also said, and it's known to everybody, it's 20 or 30 years that it's been going on. So you have to answer them. I'm not saying do terrorism. Pakistan doesn't do terrorism, and certainly not attacking civilians or women and children. That's not what Pakistan does. But there are many other ways to deal with India. So you have to, unless you do that, sending dossiers or talking diplomacy, that's the icing on the cake. These things matter when you are achieving results. For example, this ceasefire took place because the PF shot down the Indian aircraft, and your missiles and guns were blasting the Indians. If that hadn't happened, things might have been different. This is what I'm trying to explain, that results count. The world sees that. So we have to not just lament that the Indians are carrying out terrorism for 20 years or 30 years. We have to do something. There's so many movements in India. I mean, there's a long list the government knows. So the government is responsible. The government of Pakistan and the state, of course, is responsible for ensuring the safety of Pakistani citizens, whether in Baluchistan or elsewhere. And like they've done a wonderful job in this military operation or military war, it has also to be, India has also to be answered the same way in the terrorist war. This is what I'm saying. Unless you do that, unless you go proactive, the problem is not going to be solved. And that is why it has not been solved in the last 20, 30 years, whatever. This is first.
So about diplomacy then, in terms of the proactive diplomacy that we are looking at this time. Of course, the way that Pakistan responded, and of course China's help in that regard, we know that didn't go down too well as far as India is concerned. They are also saying a lot about China. They're also saying a lot about Pakistan's relationship with China. There's of course the content coming is very inflammatory. It's inflammatory not only against Pakistan but also countries like China and Turkey. There's talk of ban. So all of those factors are going to be, of course, encapsulated in on the diplomatic front also. So do you see a war of on the diplomatic front, on the financial front, on all fronts really?
Yes, you said it now. You said it yourself. That's what I'm trying to explain. If the enemy or a country is following a policy of confrontation, you also have to follow a policy of confrontation. That's what I'm exactly saying. It's not only the military front, the diplomatic front, the water front, the economic front, whether it's IMF, whether it's Washington, Moscow, New York, any other, whether it's media, whether it's social media. I mean, today modern wars are global wars. The repercussions of anything happening here is at least seen. It affects also, but at least seen every nook and corner of the world. That's what I'm saying. You have to fight this war, and you have to change your thinking. We have to start thinking global. I mean, I'm talking of confronting the attack, and we don't want this. Incidentally, we didn't start it, and we don't want it. We are offering peace, and we want peace. But until the other side relents and comes on the negotiating table, till then you will have to fight this war at every front. That's exactly what I was trying to say. That means that your policy has to be of confrontation. You have to be clear what the policy is.
Right, thank you so much. I'll come back to you. Brigadier Sahab, we also have with us Mohammed Ali Rashid, who's spokesperson in government. Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ali, this latest diplomatic, the effort that Pakistan is making on the diplomatic front, as I understand, your leader Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is leading this. Have there been any, meetings in this regard? We also saw that, there was a meeting with the Prime Minister yesterday. Overall, what is on the agenda, in a broad sense?
Meetings in regard to this, and the Chairman Bilawal Bhutto was briefed by the Foreign Office with the other team members what exactly is going on. and what exactly needs to be shown to the international media community and wherever they're going. We, in the past, India has been involved in a lot of things in Pakistan. We, unlike India, we have all the proofs, we have evidence, but we now feel that our stance was a bit soft when it came to whatever was going on. It wasn't aggressive. I mean, look at the false flag operation India did and started blaming Pakistan. Here, numerous incidents. We have their spies who are captive, who have accepted they're working for RAW. We have so many, the Majid Brigade, the BLA, and these are people who are actually these are organizations which are banned by the UN. They've been declared as banned outfits. Yet the Indian media glorifies them, talks about them. There was a time, if you were affiliated with, say, Al Qaeda or any other, banned outfit, even if you would mention something praising them or in favor of them or supporting them, it would be an act of, terror, and you'd be arrested. But here, the Indian media very openly glorifies BLA, Vijay Brigade, all these other extremist outfits. So there are many things which we need to go and show to the international community, because the international community is also very interested now. Because you see, it's just not Pakistan. The Canadian government has been affected. They've had assassinations carried out by the Indian Raw Intelligence Agency in Canada. U.S. government is very concerned that they've done that. And what's the problem here? I mean, look, the thing is, if you look at this region, India doesn't get along with Pakistan. Fair enough. But who does India get along with? Nepal doesn't like India. China doesn't like India. Sri Lanka doesn't like India. All the other neighboring countries. So basically, India has become a nuisance for the entire region. And globally also, people are realizing that they can't be trusted. And I think our case is very simple. When you're on the right side of history, and when you're advocating that, it becomes a lot more easier. So we have all the proofs, we have all the incidents. We just need to communicate it. We need to just showcase it to the international the people there internationally, that what exactly is going on. And I'm glad that that's happening now, because it's about time.
Right, fair enough. Let me come back to you, Ali. Daniyal, you Ali is saying, overall, of course, do you think that, for a while India had been, singing the mantra of how they said that Pakistan is going to become isolated? Do you think it's happening as far as India is concerned? Of course, for them to understand and their ego to accept that a country like India, has come to a level where, of course, at this time they are being looked at by and large as a country that has staged a false flag operation with little to no evidence to give, and is also, is bringing up these vituperative comments. It's trying to hide behind their media and its senseless, aggression with nothing to really give the world in terms of concrete answers.
See, to begin with, they're a day late and a dollar short. In the sense that they still don't understand. They relate the Afghan Jihad with us, that the war against the Soviets, the Cold War, started in 1979. It ended in 1989. After that, the Afghan Taliban, they were an autonomous government ruling over Afghanistan, or at least some parts of Afghanistan. And that movement was purely indigenous to the Afghan people. It was a Pashtun dominant movement. Yeah. Basically, if you look at the Pashtun code of conduct, the Pashtun Wali, in that whenever a alien force attacks Pashtun land, they unite and they fight till the foreign occupation is sent back. So that had nothing to do with the TTP. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan has nothing to do with the Afghan Taliban. But their homework or their understanding of this is so poor and so weak. Like, just look at what their media was saying, that the seaport in Lahore has been destroyed. So similarly, their whole understanding of this situation is very, very. They didn't put in much effort in reading history or trying to understand what the exact situation is. So they tried linking it. Secondly, see, when the war on terror started in 2001 or during that time, there was a there was people thought that terrorism has something to do with Islam. But now, with the passage of time, people have realized, the whole world has realized that terrorism has no religion. In fact, if you go back in history, Gandhi used to say the worst form of terrorism is poverty.
Yeah.
So globally now people understand that if that sort of an environment is created, a Hindu could turn towards terrorism, a Christian could turn towards terrorism, Jews could turn towards terrorism. It's basically a mindset. It's a mindset of imposing your thoughts on others. So unfortunately, the fascist regime in India right now, being led by Narendra Modi, which has very strong linkage with RSS and other such outfits. So they planned this, but it was so poorly planned, and then later so poorly orchestrated. Like even like if you talk to a layman, the state of Jammu is there's a deployment of more than 800,000 armed Indian army in that one state.
And the kind of facade that they've been wanting to paint there, like you're saying, has consistently has failed now.
Well, obviously it's impossible. It's impossible
to restrict. We saw
their
them
own
trying to
leader,
restrict the journalists, trying to restrict any kind of communication, banning any kind of social media communication. We saw all of that, and we've seen it.
More than that, how do they justify such a? It's almost a million people armed of the army deployed there. How are they justifying that? It's basically to control the local population, which wants to be independent. They don't want to, and if you the argument that they give that we're giving them facilities, we're giving them better governance, how will they manage on their own? So if you go back in history, when Gandhi was fighting the British Empire, when they were on the negotiation table, this is exactly the arguments that the British gave him. Like, we have given you a system of government, we've given you a system of railway, a system of judiciary, we're running your country, how will you manage? And his answer was, there are no people on earth who would prefer a good foreign government than being governed by themselves. So basically it's all this facade that they're creating, it's to justify that military presence which is there only to control the locals who do not want to stay with them. As far as you were talking about our right to defense, the UN Charter Article 51 definitely allows every sovereign country to defend itself, but I would not agree with what Brigadier Sahab was suggesting. I don't think that insanity should be answered by insanity. We should expose them, but we should not go to their level that they have gone to, and we should try to.
I think he was saying that when you're left
with no choice, obviously you have to defend yourself,
because this is what happened essentially with Pahalgam.
We had to respond. We did respond, but basically the whole the Modi doctrine, it's basically I see no sanity in it.
Of course, so, and the way that what's happening, it's shaping India. I think that's a cause of concern, should be a cause of concern for the global community, because a country like India of that many people, and that is shaping the way it's shaping up under the Hindutva doctrine
for the longest period of time in the West.
They
were the whole ideology of Gandhi was preached to students of high school during their world history class, and it was Hinsa, non-violence, and how he managed to achieve so much through those tracts, even in South Africa later than in India. So the whole ideology that Hinduism was related to, or Gandhi or India was related to, was peaceful resistance, non-violent resistance. This is a very new phenomena that just came to surface, or they've been doing it in the past, but they weren't exposed. So now they've been exposed. So I think at this point, all we need to do is be more proactive in exposing them, and that's more than enough. Because, like I said earlier, the plan is so ill. The orchestration of the plan and the whole the way it's so easy, and there's so many loopholes, because it's basically based on a lie. Like I was telling you earlier, if you just look at the whole situation where they say that this attack occurred, it's impossible.
And with the deployment at on such a huge level, them not being able to apprehend this according to them, this terrorist attack. Their own state media agrees
to this,
and then after 10 days, 10 minutes, they have registered an FIR with
against Pakistan,
conclusive proof. So there are a lot of loopholes. Of course, let me come back to you on that. I'm going to go to Brigadier Sahab. Brigadier Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Brigadier Sahab, as far as water security is concerned, I want to move a little bit to that. There is certainly a lot of aggression, like you said earlier also. There seem to be multiple pronged attacks, as far as India is concerned. Of course, the terrorism that they are doing, the way that they are killing children on Pakistan soil, our children, the blood of the innocent. And then on the other hand, there is of course the water security issue, the water terrorism that they continue, and they even now say that they will, the control, so to speak. In terms of agitating that, do you think that the UN is a conclusive forum for them to be able, for us to be able to deal with this on that level? And do you think that their efficacy itself, that they're efficacious enough to ensure that Pakistan is heard?
Yes, Pakistan can be heard in the UN and in many other places, but has the UN solved Kashmir? Has it solved Gaza? Or so many other issues also. Look, what I'm trying to explain is that even as Pakistan seeks peace, you have to be clear about your national security policy. Your national security policy now has to change because of the mere fact that India is following an all-out confrontation policy, like you were saying, from water to killing children to sending aircraft to doing everything, whether it is IMF. They're even trying to fight Turkey and China or Azerbaijan because these countries are supportive of Pakistan. So there is a level of animosity and madness that prevails in India. And for that, unless we go proactive, obviously Pakistan will not do terrorism. And I said so clearly, Pakistan is anti-terrorist and will suffer from terrorism. So,
sorry, there's a problem with audio. Mehdi Sahab, there's a problem with audio. Let me go to Ali. Ali, in terms of, the same question to you. As far as our water issue is concerned, as far as the Indus Water Treaty, the control of the waters, and the way that India seems belligerent in their one-sided agenda of using each and every means against Pakistan, do you think that UN is going to be a conclusive forum? Because like Brigadier Saab said, they do have their limitations. We've recently seen that they do. We've also seen that in Palestine's case. We've seen that in numerous cases. And there are limitations as far as organizations like the UN is concerned. I think there's a problem with audio. Daniyal, what do you think? You think that it's enough the way that we agitated it in the UN? Of course, we're going to be following a multi-pronged approach also, but at the same time, as a forum, there are limitations as far as UN is concerned.
You see, it's more than enough. After winning a war, you see, even our Quran tells us that respect will be given to those who will fight. So our the whole image that India had created was, or they were creating in the national media and in their local media, was that as if they're going to just enter Pakistan and Pakistan is going to fall the way the government in Kabul fell when the Afghan Taliban just retook 2 years ago. So Alhamdulillah, that did not happen. So obviously now we are in a much better position to plead our case. Then even see, if you look at the whole intervention from the United States, it was on the request of the Indian government, not our government. We acted with utmost restraint. We tried our best to bury the hatchet even when this whole situation started, although we were being accused. But they kept on pushing us to our limits, and then we had no choice but to retaliate. So definitely that is going to matter. More than that, see, if you look at the whole, the way they're behaving with they're acting on the Indus Water Treaty. Now, how will they defend this in front of the international community, in front of the United Nations, whereas it's completely a blatant violation of international laws to use water as a weapon, especially when it's already...
Daniel, let me come back to you. We'll have Brigadier Saab back with us. Let me go to him. Brigadier Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now.
Brigadier Saab, there is, if we saw the conference of the ISPR, he said that there are more than 90,000 operations that we have done. You are saying, of course, that there needs to be a change in terms of, the policy against a neighbor like India. How do we change it? Do you think there need to be more operations? How do you perceive that, what do you perceive as that change?
India is not a neighbor. India is an enemy. So there's a difference between a neighbor and an enemy. And it is an implacable enemy. I mean, an implacable means that it is sworn to enmity, and it's not of our choosing. I've been saying personally, and I'm saying right now, and the government of Pakistan, state of Pakistan has been saying that we want peace with India and let's solve it peacefully. But that other side is not agreeing to that. Even in the recent, after this short conflict, President Trump intervened and there was ceasefire and all, and now the suggestion of having talks between India and Pakistan in Saudi Arabia or any other neutral venue has been rejected by India. They are not interested. They keep saying this. They are not interested in talking. What are they saying? They're saying they will talk on two things, according to the Indians. One is what they call, the India calls POK. POK, according to India, is Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, northern areas of Pakistan. They want it to be vacated from Pakistan. Secondly, they talk of terrorism. Terrorism is anything happening in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. Anything happening, regardless of who does it or what happens, we are responsible. Pakistan is supposed to be responsible. These are the two things the Indians want to talk. So what will you talk with them? I mean, unless they change from this, what are you going to talk with them then? So what I'm trying to say, you have to get proactive. You have to come out of this slumber that we have been in for the last, like the DG said, ISP said, last 20 years. Well, last 20 years, I told you 5 years back or some years back, you had a policy of 100 years of peace. Now see what where we are. Do you think we are in peace today? Are we having peaceful relations with India? So we have to be realistic. Diplomacy, I keep saying, I teach geopolitics, by the way. Diplomacy works only when the results on the battlefield, or not just battlefield, military battlefield, overall work. There is no such thing as diplomacy in isolation. Today people are listening to you. One of the reasons why they're listening to you is, besides that the Indian propaganda has been exposed, is that you did very well in this military conflict. The world is always with the winner.
On that note, I think you've made your point. Let me go to Ali. Ali, we have limited time, but I think Brigadier Saab, what he says is interesting. He's saying that there's really, the world is listening because we've been able to show the world that we can take care of our own. Of course, there was little doubt about that, and of course, Pakistan being a peace-loving nation, we want to, we've always said we want to maintain cordial relations with our neighbors in terms of, having two nuclear nations. And I think the US president has also echoed this, against each other, face to face is not something that we need on the global front. But that said, what is your opinion about, this delegation, and what you think are tangible results that we can expect?
I think in the past, as I mentioned earlier, that we weren't aggressive enough in expressing our point of view to the world. We had internal issues, or we had other things which we were focusing more on. We were busy firefighting. But I think the time has come now. The nation is united. The morale of the nation is very high. The morale of the Pak forces is very high. And as you can see, there's only like one point agenda: Pakistan and nationalism. We want to talk about peace. We want to talk about progress. And we cannot continue to be a victim of India's petty, regional. Whenever there's an election, we do understand that Pakistan, anti-Pakistan rhetoric really sells in India. So whenever they have some elections going on, like the Bihar elections going on right now, they had to do some adventurism just to please the people and to show that they're heroes. But it can't be at our expense all the time. We can't give. We've already given a lot of lives in this war the war which has been going on. 80,000 of our people have lost. So anybody who is against terrorism is Pakistan, and the world is starting to see that now. And with India expanding its extremist Hinduitva kind of ideology elsewhere, the way they are singling the minorities in India, I think within India and outside, globally also, Canada, US, China, everybody knows exactly. India has been exposed. So I think our case is very strong. And for the first time, I feel that, we'll be able to express it properly and because India is totally isolated right now. And in this entire incident, you won't see one person who is with India right now. On the contrary, you'll see India condemning Trump, who asked you to come intervene, who's asking you to come and, mediate things. Similarly with Turkey and Azerbaijan. I mean, you can see a lot of hate coming out of India, and the rest of the world wants peace. So I think peace will win and the hate will lose.
Right. Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you for your time. Daniyal, before we close.
See, I want to make one thing clear, that I, as a Pakistani citizen, feel that our war is not against India, it's basically against Nadir Modi and his doctrine. We Hindus,
not the people of India.
Not the people of India. It's not a war between Hinduism and Islam. We have coexisted together for centuries now, and it's been we've been living so peacefully. So it's basically Narendra Modi and his very small lot, because even in India I'm seeing a lot of people, not agreeing with him. In fact, one of the reasons why he staged this whole drama was he was seeing
the dying popularity, and
of
trying
his.
to restore his position. Those are also facts. Thank you for being with us today, Daniyal Sheikh. Thank you for joining us today, Ali Rashid. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Salma Malik. Thank you for your time, Brigadier Retired Nadir Mir. Thank you for being with us today. Of course, Pakistan is going to agitate our cause on all fronts. We are going to, of course, going to the world to tell our story. We are also going to be, going to match every offensive that India throws at us, just because, of course, that we can do so, but also because Pakistan is a peace-loving nation, and we have, for a long time sacrificed so much against terrorism, because of the war against terror that Pakistan, and so much of it has not been our war. Our women and children have died and continue to suffer even as we speak. Of course, Pakistan will defend its borders, it will defend its people, and continues to do so. And I think India needs to reflect on the kind of path of isolation that they seem to be on, when the world is asking them questions they don't have the answers to. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.